IT professionals face a lot of noise. They always have problems to fix and not enough time. They also risk missing important problems that are not yet obvious and haven't yet caused downtime, but they haven't been able to address. Gone are the days of walking into a server closet to see if the lights are okay, and you don't have time to log in and check every single device's health. We want you to help save time, reduce risk, and be confident that your systems are monitored, that you get useful alerts, and use self-healing to keep your systems operating at peak performance. Hi, my name is Nate, and this is Jeff from Mitek Partners. Welcome to an episode of Mitek Co-Managed IT Services, where today we're going to discuss monitoring, alerting, and self-healing. All right, Jeff, let's get into the content. I'm going to preface this with some of this sounds really obvious. Like if you're an IT person today and listening to this, of course, monitoring, alerting, and self-healing is something you want to be able to do, but do you have the right tools? Is it easy to set up? Is it easy to maintain? And so we're going to start with monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
And again, monitoring, it seems kind of evident and obvious, but I remember the days when we literally had to go, because the tools didn't do a good job of this, but we literally had to go walk into server closets and check to see if the green lights versus amber lights were showing. But today, A, we don't have time for that, and B, you might have, most organizations have something that's in the cloud, and you can't do it.
Can't walk into a room.
You can't walk into a room anymore for some of that. So talk about monitoring, and in particular, like what are some of the nuances about getting it set up and how to make it, optimize it for people, for IT professionals.
So what's really nice about the tool that we're discussing today, Enable, the monitors the things that you want to monitor, the tool is built so that they will monitor them automatically based on what is discovered when it's installing the agent. So the agent will go install, it'll say, hey, I'm a server, I have DHCP, I have DNS, and it will take service templates, or what they call them, and apply monitors to those items. So I can show an example. So in this case, this is a workstation that's running, and what it's done is it's found and it knows that there's a C drive. WMI picks up C drive, it looks for disk errors, and all this is automatic. You don't have to configure anything, it just finds it and sets it up for you.
That's pretty incredible, because that's one of the things about setting it up. How do you know what to set up? And so it starts with a good foundation, I would say, but not everything is going to be in a service template, right? So how do you, there are going to be some things that might be unique to your organization or unique to a application. Talk about that, because how can you address that?
The nice thing is that everything that is done that's automated can also be done by yourself. Like you can target certain things and do the same thing that the automation does. So in this case, let's say it's just a single service or a single process for a special application that you want to monitor. And all you have to do is, let's go into this agent, and I'm looking at all the services that are running on this machine. Let's say I want, for this piece of software that we're running for IMIBot, and I want to make sure that I'm monitoring it, right? So we just want to gather data about it and see what's happening. You just flip it on, and at that point, so it'll add that monitor into your monitoring list. You can also do it with processes. So backup FP, let's just go to that functional process and flip it on. And what ends up happening is when you go to the monitor tab, those items have now added themselves, and it will do just like all the other ones are doing, and it'll grab the data and it'll start presenting that data for you. And if you have multiple things on this is like if you want one server, one special thing, but just like the automated rules of finding things, you can do the exact same thing to multiple servers using rules.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. Like, I mean, depending on the scale of your system, I mean, if it's, let's say there's one example I like to use in IT. There's oftentimes thousands of variables. So that's that across all the different systems that you might be responsible for. How can you be confident that you didn't forget to turn one on, or you didn't, like those things, like kind of the things that keep me up at night when I think about IT, because it's so easy to miss something. So rules can help you with that. So talk about that so that it can help an IT person to make sure they're not inadvertently missing something really important.
Yeah, I'm glad you said, like, forget, like, how do I know I didn't forget? So basically it's all built on rules and filters and what it is that you want to monitor. So in this case, what I'm showing here is a rule detail of what everything is. What you do is you create these filters or groupings of machines. In this case, you can see this one says it's server SBS. So I had a filter that's saying, show me all the servers that have SBS. That means that all of those servers, for sure, when you want it applied, it's going to apply to every single one of them. Even if a new one comes in, you add a new server that fits that filter, you don't have to remember to put it in, it'll do it automatically. And what it's doing is, this rule is saying for that set of devices, I want to add these service templates and even notifications, which we'll talk about later. But it's automatically, you can set it up creating your own service templates and your own rule with a filter, and it'll add it automatically for you.
So obviously you're very familiar with this system, and we're here to help with folks that if they want to use this system. But like, just in general, how difficult is it to create a rule and to maybe build something like this and put something like this in place? Just the rule side of it. That's all.
Yeah, I think most IT professionals are familiar with group policy objects. Yeah. And it's about the same, right? Group policy, you have to go in and you have to make sure you're targeting the right machine group with an OU, and you have to then configure each of those group policies, objects, items. Filters or rules are the exact same thing. It's just you're using, instead of going into you're going into this interface, and you just have to filter the right objects, apply the right things that you're going to monitor, and so it's about the same amount of time it would take to create a GPO.
Yeah, good. So it's not that difficult. No. But it definitely creates some optimization and time saving. Okay, so that's a great segue to, again, you alluded to it here, is that setting up the monitoring is the first step.
Yes.
But I don't want to just monitor it. I actually want to get notifications.
Yes.
And I think part of the setup for notifications that is also something that can be scary is you can notify on lots of stuff. I mean, that's one of the problems that I know IT professionals have, is too much noise. Mm-hmm. So how can you talk about setting up notifications, alerts and notifications in a way that starts helping not too much noise, I guess?
Yes. We always start small and then build up as you start to figure out what it is that you want to watch and monitor and notify on. All of the monitors, they have what they call thresholds, and the thresholds, whenever something passes a threshold, it triggers a state change, and that is what could trigger a notification. Now, thresholds can be adjusted because we all know different servers, let's say we're talking about disk space on servers, some servers have more disk space, some not, so you might want to adjust the threshold so that you're not constantly getting alerted on one thing. And then you basically set your notifications based on that. I can show a demo of what that would look like for notifications. So in the notification, so let's say this is my test notification option. You probably can see that I have a recipient in here for who's going to receive that. Mm-hmm. That's just an account or user that's in there with an email address. So the notification is going to go to an email address. And if I want to prevent constant notifications when things trigger right away, let's say reboot or something happens where you might want to delay that notification from happening, you can give it time to resolve itself so that you don't get notified. So that's another way of preventing what you would call just constant noise, right? Yeah. But in order to trigger, we basically just take a look at the things that we want to trigger on. Like in this case, I'm triggering on the state change of failed, and I can find the things. You can find things that are automatically in there, or I can find the things that I turned on. So you saw me enable that backup FP before, and I also turned on that Windows service for IMIBot, and now I'm saying for those two things, I want to trigger a notification on
if something fails.
Yes. And if I do this individually, I can actually say I want to specifically target the machine that I did that for, and once I save that notification policy is going to wait and watch for that, and then follow the rule of of the delay, if there's a delay, and then notify the recipient that is there.
Got it. So, I mean, that's again seems complex, but I mean, you just walked through some good steps there. Can you talk about applying the rules to the notifications, because doing this individual, like, it's great that you can do this individual, like you just said, but trying to do that across lots of different devices, lots of different servers, etc. And again, running the risk of missing something. How do you do that?
That's where rules fall into play again. And as you said, I alluded to that earlier. If I go back to that same rule that I was showing you before, which was here, all rules have the ability not only to set a service template, but also to set a notification profile. So for that same group of machines that you're making sure the service templates are applied, if one of those service templates is monitoring disk space or something like that, you set whatever notification profile you have to that same rule, and it automatically applies.
And so that means any new system
Yes.
that would meet the filtering criteria, that would be part of the monitoring set, could also then apply the same notification set.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So one of the things you talked about too is that it can gun to an email. I almost wanted to touch on really briefly the an email to an individual, but it could also go to like a ticketing system.
Yes.
Or something like that. Can you just hit on that real quick, just to make sure that, depending on how the IT team might be wanting to leverage a tool like this?
Yep. So every user gets an account and they log in, and every user account is tied to an email address. But let's say you have a shared mailbox or some sort of email that sends to your own ticketing system. You just create a user with that email address, and that's what you use in the notification profile. You just pick that account and add it.
Got it. Very good. So whether you have, we have a ticketing system that we can extend to our clients, or you have your own, or it's just maybe a distribution list that you're using internally, you can do that too.
Yep.
So very good. All right. So that's really kind of on the alerting notifications. I know we're just scratching the surface here, but let's now talk about the self-healing. Because again, you built the monitors, and to one of the ways, even though it's kind of maybe potentially out of order, but instead of sending notifications, you could potentially apply self-healing that could prevent the notification from having to be sent anyway.
Yes.
So can you talk about that, so that you can, again, save time, and hopefully maybe as an IT professional not get woken up in the middle of the night when something goes bump?
Yes. So all of the things that you're monitoring for, you can actually take a self-healing action on. So we talked about creating service templates that end up getting applied. That service template, when you're creating it, you can set those things for self-healing. It's the same as what I'm about to show here, where on an individual item, if I go in, it gives you an option to set a self-healing action. So if I want to have a trigger, so the trigger again is state change, and you're saying retry it first before you try the self-healing, and then execute an action, and that action can be restarting the Windows service. So if a Windows service fails, it'll just try to restart it again. But that's great if it's a service, right? But if it's not a service, if it's a process or something that that maybe is, you want to have more than one action on, because you can see you can only select one action. So you have the ability to execute a script, and you can create a PowerShell script that will be called when it's done, and that PowerShell could have multiple actions that would take place, and it'll try to restart it, maybe try to do a couple other things that you write in there, and then you can do the same thing with notifications right within the self-healing rule, that if that self-healing fails, you could then send that to a team or an email address, so that, hey, it tried to do the self-healing, it couldn't, it failed, someone needs to go take a look at this.
Yeah, and there's also, I mean, even hit that drop down again under the, because some people might want to be notified that self-healing even ran in the first place.
Yes.
Like, so nothing you have to do necessarily, but you might get an alert. And this might be, especially if you're trying to test if it's functioning or not.
Yeah.
But there's different ways you can do that. And now, can you also hit on how if like again with our integrated ticketing system, I'm not trying to spend too much time on that, but there's some things you can do with some ticket integration with this too. Can you talk a little bit about that before we wrap up?
Yep. Within this tool, if let's say you were using our ticketing integration, you can create ticketing templates that are used. So in this case, you see all these ticketing templates that I'm filtering through, and each of these would, if you chose that ticketing template, it'll create that ticket template on the board, and you can configure these to set your taxonomy, which is classifying all your tickets out the same way. All of that can be done just by selecting a ticketing profile instead of an email address.
So, and that could be done again with the same alert status. You could create a ticket and close the ticket if it's something successfully
Yes.
healed, or if it failed, you could create one too.
Correct. And if in the integration that this has, we're not spending a lot of time on it, but the integration that it has with our ticketing system, if something fails and then in a time that state change goes from failed back to normal, it knows that a ticket was created and it'll just close it for you without having to worry about it, like you kind of alluded to.
Yeah, and I think the reason why that's important for IT professionals, not only does it save you time, but like very often we're asked to prove what we're doing. And so like capturing in a ticket, capturing in a log, even if you're proactively building self-healing and building those scripts to help automate some of these capabilities, it's nice to be able to have it captured and documented that it's actually being done. So as opposed to an executive asking you, like, so what are you doing all day? You know what I mean? It seems like you're not very busy. Well, gosh, look at all the work I'm actually doing, but I built a system to help me do it so I can be more effective.
Yeah,
so,
the ticketing profile, you can actually tell it to create time entries under a
see, there you go.
set your own time entries.
There you go. Little tip from Uncle Jeff over here. All right. We hope you enjoyed this Mitek co-managed IT services episode on monitoring, alerting, notifications, and self-healing. If this session was helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for future Mitek content. And feel free to check out mitek.com for more resources on Microsoft 365, cybersecurity, digital productivity. I'm going to throw Copilot in there as well, strategic IT planning, and everything else we do to make IT easy for our clients. Thanks again for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, be productive and stay secure.